Morning, friends. Happy Monday morning. Chuck Bell here, bringing you your message of hope for today. I'm going to be reading from Psalm 130. I'm reading from the New Living Translation Bible. This psalm has stuck with me for many years. I remember, many years ago, I was challenged to sit down and pick a psalm and to rewrite it so many times that it became my own words. And Psalm 130 was the one that I did with that exercise. So I've always thought about this one, especially at a time when numbers seem so important. And I'm going to get to that in just a second. So here's the reading from Psalm 130. From the depths of despair, O Lord, I call for your help. Hear me, O Lord. Pay attention to my prayer. Lord, if you kept a record of our sins, who, O Lord, could ever survive? But you offer forgiveness that we might learn to fear you. Now, there's two things that I'm not going to read the rest of it because, there's so much stuff that's happening just in these first four verses. And I'm gonna read a little bit from the footnotes that are in this translation. Not because I can't come up with my own words, but I think sometimes that when we read these footnotes, it encourages us to go down paths in our mind that we might not have seen initially. We might have missed by just reading it and not listening to some of the descriptions of those passages in general. So this is the footnotes for just verses 1 and 2. In the depths of despair, a psalmist cried out to God. Despair makes us feel isolated and distanced from God, but it is precisely when we need God most. Despair over sin should not lead to self-pity, causing us to think more about ourselves than God. Instead, it should lead to confession and then to God's mercy, forgiveness, and redemption. When we feel overwhelmed by a problem, feeling sorry for ourselves will only increase feelings of hopelessness. But crying out to God will turn our attention to the only one who can really help. Now, the second part, verses 3 and 4 of what I've read this morning, talks about the number of times that we have strayed from God or number of times that we have sinned, and God does not keep a record. We live in a world where numbers are really important. We have jobs that are specifically for number people, accountants and statisticians. Every day that you turn on the TV or you crank on the internet to read the news, or if you're driving, you might talk about the number of minutes it takes to go somewhere. We're always counting something. And sometimes those numbers are for a good purpose, and sometimes a higher number means that's not so good. Take, for example, somebody who plays baseball. One strike is not so bad, but when you get three, So a higher number doesn't necessarily always mean the best. And specifically in the psalm, the record of our sin, that's heavy. If we think about the number of times that sin comes into our lives daily, and the fact that God does not keep a record of that, I don't know about you, but I'm very thankful for that. Here's what the footnote says this morning about that verse. Keeping a record of sin or holding a grudge is like building a wall between you and another person, and is nearly impossible to talk openly while the wall is there. God doesn't keep a record of our sin. When God forgives completely, tearing down any wall between us and God. And therefore, we fear God or revere. Yet we can talk to God about anything. That's that is good news, my friend. The number of times that I've strayed in my life away or off the path, if God had kept a record of that, I don't know how I could ever go back, or how I can't defend that such a high number. Here's how they finalize these footnotes. When you pray, realize that God is holding nothing against you. The lines of communication are completely open. My friends, that is your message of hope for today.